Okay, well, hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar. Today we are going to learn how to find and cite 360 images, and we're joined by the wonderful Kathy Schock, who's waiting in the audience to present. My name is Susan Oxnevad, and I am the Director of Education at ThingLink, and I'm just going to give you a quick little overview of what ThingLink is, but then we're not going to waste a lot of time because Kathy has a lot of information for us to share. So before we begin, I just want to mention to you that everybody in the audience is muted right now. You can see a panel on the right side of your screen, the GoToWebinar panel, and the audience is muted just to keep the background noise and distractions from getting in our way. We do encourage you to ask some questions, and there's a chat section at the bottom that expands, and I'm going to send a message to the audience right now, so hopefully that will pop up. If you have a question, please put it in the chat box or put it in the questions box, whichever one works for you. And when Kathy's giving her presentation, I'll be sitting on the back side looking through your questions and waiting to ask them to her at the end of the session. So I'm just going to go ahead and start the webinar. If you can't hear me and you're in the audience, please type a message and then I will get the message. I will see that message. So anyway, my name is Susan Oxnevad. I'm the Director of Education here at ThingLink. I've been with ThingLink for about 5 years now. Started when I was a tech coach in the classroom, and I was working with teachers, helping them learn how to integrate technology in the classroom. And I was looking for great digital tools, and I discovered a tool called ThingLink, which I fell in love with. That was just our regular ThingLink tool. I kept teaching and working as a tech coach and working with students and advising ThingLink on how to make the tool better for education until about 1.5 years ago, I left the world of teaching and became the Director of Education. Since that time, I've been doing a lot of training and working with teachers in person. This is a picture of me last Friday at our boot camp at Texas Christian University, which was really an amazing experience in this amazing space. So I spend a lot of time talking with teachers and teaching them how to use ThingLink for teaching and learning. And so that is part of why I'm also giving this webinar tonight, because we're going to talk about a topic that is of high interest to people who are webinar or bootcamp participants and teachers that I work with, and that is how to find images. So before we bring Kathy Schock, the expert, on, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about what ThingLink is in 30 seconds or less. So ThingLink is an image editing tool where you start with an image and you can add links with media on top of images or videos or 360 images. We have actually 3 media editing tools, and they all work pretty similarly. You can go ahead and add media and text on top of an image to tell a story, to teach a lesson, to demonstrate learning, or to design a game or an invention. Anything is really possible with ThingLink. So today we're focusing on our ThingLink 360, and the best thing to do with ThingLink 360 is to create a virtual tour. I have this page up here, and if you want to write down the link, this is a page with just a bunch of virtual tours embedded in them. And so you might want to visit this later, just if you want to check out some more virtual tours. It's a great thing to do with ThingLink, and it's a great way to create with ThingLink. And I'm going to show you a real quick overview of a really cool recent virtual tour that was created by Detroit Public Television. They hosted an online event for teachers all across the state of Michigan and their students. It was live and online, and they took us to 3 places in Detroit where we could actually explore these places and these virtual field trips. And this is the Raptors virtual field trip, and you can see it's spinning on a carousel right now. I'll make it full screen, and you can see that we started with the 360 image. That's what the webinar is about tonight. And then a wonderful and amazing educator and someone who works for Detroit Public Television talked to the people who worked at the zoo and created this wonderful virtual field trip experience so everybody could enjoy it. They talked to experts, and right now my sound is slightly compromised because I'm on the webinar, but there's lots of wonderful audio too. I can hear that now. I'm not sure if you can. So this is just one example of what a ThingLink virtual field trip is. There's a live video that's playing.
Looks like they
And you can spin around and you can explore. You can take it at your own pace. Here we have a little guide to the Raptor House. So this is just one example of a 360 virtual experience that you might be exploring. And that's a great thing to do with ThingLink. Let's see. And so I just wanted to share that with you, and then remember that there's a page that I just shared that you can explore some more virtual field trips. Now, it's great to create virtual field trips, but it's really important to remember the most important thing about ThingLink is that every ThingLink starts with an image. So before you can even use one of our 3 tagging tools, you need to start with an image and add it to ThingLink. And that is the part that teachers often have questions about, and that's the part that I often spend time working with teachers. So today we are joined by Kathy Schock, and she's going to show us how to find and how to cite 360 images properly. That's really a great thing for ThingLink users because we are building this huge library of interactive images and 360 images that everyone can use and remix and clone, but we need to make sure that we understand which images are okay to use and how to cite them. So I'm going to right now pass the screen to Kathy Schock. That'll just take me a minute and change the presenter. And when Kathy gets on board, while Kathy's just getting settled, I'll tell you just a little bit about Kathy. So she is a longtime educator who I've been following for many, many years. She used to inspire me. When I was a young teacher in the 90s, I think I would read in print about Kathy Schock and the wonderful things she was doing with technology. And we were just so fortunate to have been able to hook up with Kathy at the very beginning of our ThingLink 360 launch. And she met with us and created a repository of images to try to help students and teachers learn how to find these images. And today we're joined by Kathy again for even some more advice. So Kathy, we welcome you.
Thank you. So can you see my whole screen yet?
I can see how to cite 360 images. And
okay, so as soon as I play.
Yes.
And and nothing's sitting on top of it, right?
No, it's perfect right now.
Okay, fine, great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Kathy Schock. I'm a retired educational technology person, retired from the school district, but I still go out and about speaking all over the place. So I'm sure I'll be coming to a town near you soon if you want to see me in person. But as a technologist, I love 360 images and virtual reality. And as a library media specialist, I'm passionate about giving credit to the creator of an object. Tonight, I'm going to share both of these passions with you by telling you about some cool places to find 360 images for students or you to bring into ThingLink or just use them with a VR headset, and how to make sure students have permission to use the images they find and how to cite them. So thanks for the great introduction, by the way, Susan. So let's investigate the places you can find 360 images to use. If you have a premium teacher account for ThingLink, you already have access to hundreds of curriculum-related images to use with students or to clone and add links of your own. Teleport 360 for ThingLink is available as both an online tool and an iOS app. The 360-degree group on Flickr, right, the image sharing site, has over 30,000 images, and many of them you have permission to download and then bring them into ThingLink and add the tags, or bring them in to a central location and students can look at them with Google Cardboard or in one of the apps on their iPads or Android devices. Oops, sorry. So there's another group of images that are available on Flickr. The format of a 360-degree image is called an equirectangular image. It means it's 2 by 1, so it's two wide and 1 high. Items in this particular group have to be 360 pixels wide by 180 pixels tall, but they work with a Google Cardboard and they can also be brought into ThingLink. What's interesting about, this is where I first saw students actually making their own 360 images. So this was an equirectangular image that's in that particular group that a student drew, made it 360 by 180, and you can look at this with Google Cardboard or bring it into ThingLink and be immersed in this student's drawing. So the art connection with art is pretty amazing when you think about it. So I just wanted to point out that they don't always have to be photographs either. I've created a group on Flickr called 360 Images for Schools. And I ask teachers and students to upload their 360 images and allow others to use them. And the hope is to get a collection of images from around the world. And as you can see by this screen, I ask people to change their licensing, because when you put something up on Flickr, it's not necessarily, you're not necessarily allowing people to use it. So I ask people to we're going to talk about Creative Commons in a minute, but to change it to a Creative Commons attributional, non-commercial, share-alike license, which would allow downloading. All right, so it doesn't do anybody any good just to look at your image. You want people to use it. This is a software tool that I just found while I was working on this presentation and looking for places where 360 images can be downloaded. This is called Street View Download 360, and you go to istreetview.com to get it. And it's a software tool that allows you to download any Google Street View 360 image that is already up in Google Street View. And the download can be imported into ThingLink or used with a 360 viewer. So here's what that looks like. You open the app and you put in the URL from the app that from Google Street View that you found. You can load a panorama if you have a panorama ID, or you can put in coordinates. So if you find a 360 image, you put in any of that information, you can then download it, asks you where you want to save it, asks you what resolution you want, and you download it, and all of a sudden you have a Google Street View image. Now, the only thing with this is, I'm not sure about credit for these, because when you find them in Google Street View, I'm not sure how much attribution is there. So the best thing to do is, if you're downloading it, at least grab the original URL so you can send someone back to that image. So just because obviously an image can be downloaded doesn't necessarily mean you or a student has permission to use it in a project, put it in ThingLink, or even to edit it. So there are ways that students can find out what they have permission to use. I'm hoping everyone listening already knows about Creative Commons, but I don't ever mind explaining it again in case I give you just some other way to convince your teachers or colleagues or administrators about the use of Creative Commons. When I first started using Creative Commons, I had no idea why I would want to use this. I didn't understand why it was important. And then as I created more and more content and was sharing it, all of a sudden it just opened up and I'm like, oh, this is why. So creators can put a Creative Commons license to their works that expressly tell you ahead of time how you can use them. So instead of having the student find an image they like, try to find out who to email to see if they can use it in their science fair project, see if they can get permission, which takes a long amount of time. A person who puts up an image, and other items too, but I'm basically talking about images tonight, can tell you ahead of time how you may use the image. Now, if you don't like, or you want to use it in one of the ways that the person said that it couldn't be used, you can always still write to the person and say, well, you say it's non-commercial, but I want to put it in this book. Is that okay? And you could, you can always get permission other than the Creative Commons licensing from the creator of the image. So whenever an item has Creative Commons licensing, you always have to give attribution, all right? Where you got it, who made it, and we're going to talk about the components of citing the images. The license can say it can be changed or not changed. So no derivative works means you can use it as is, or derivative works means you can change it. So the creator can tell you that if you change their work, their derivative work, they can put a share alike component on the license, which means if you change their work, when you publish your work, you have to allow others to change your work too. Now, students don't like this. They don't like to spend all this time changing a work that they're allowed to change, and then they don't want anybody to touch theirs. So if that's the case, then students need to look for something that doesn't say share alike. There are plenty of images in the world that they can use that just have attribution, allow them to change it. And then commercial or non-commercial. A creator can state whether you can use it, commercially or non-commercially. And again, if a student is using an image in like a media festival where they're going to be possibly winning money or winning stuff, that is really commercial. So they do have to watch out for that. So if a student finds an image on Flickr, they can check the license that the creator has applied. So let's look at this one in more detail. The creator says you have to give attribution, which all Creative Commons licensed images do. Only allows the person to use it non-commercially, and does say, if you change my image, you have to allow others to change yours also. All right, so it's just as simple as that to look for those licenses. In Flickr, when students do a search in Flickr and they choose any license, you can see there's all these choices. So if you don't want to change it and you don't want to use it commercially, they can just choose all Creative Commons is what they're searching for. So anything that's allowed to be used with attribution can't be changed, can't be used commercially. Then if they want them to use it commercially, they just limit it to commercial use. And then modifications, that's the no derivative works. Commercial use and modifications. So that is what the Creative Commons is. Now, of course, the pool gets smaller and smaller as you go down, but there's, all Creative Commons, 10 million images, commercial use allowed, 5 million images, modification allows, 250,000 images. So there's plenty of stuff for students to choose from. So when you're providing a citation to the image, it is pretty much the same as providing attribution to the creator. And here are the things for in the MLA standards that you're supposed to, MLA citation, I guess standards, that you use when you're citing a digital image. The name or the handle, because oftentimes people don't use the real name, of the creator of the digital image, if you can find that. The title of the digital image, if they titled it. The name of the website which houses the image. Any numbers associated with the image, if applicable. The publisher of the image, if it's not the creator. The date the image was created or published, and the URL of the image. Now, chances are not always great that all of these things are going to be available. The least amount of attribution would be the URL of the image. And in Flickr, that doesn't mean a URL of any of the sizes of the image, just the URL of the direct image. If the image is in a collection, the URL is not the picture that you're looking at. You have to find out what the actual straight URL is for that image. All right. The date the image was created, if you're using Flickr or any of those, that usually hangs out there somewhere. The publisher of the image might not necessarily be the person who created it. You don't know. You just have to do your best, but you have to give as much attribution as you can. The least amount would be the URL of the image if you can't find anything else. So my feeling is that when a student's using any image, flat image, 360 image from anywhere, and it's Creative Commons license, they searched on Google or Bing or Google Photos, or they searched on Flickr, the easiest thing to do is to put the attribution right on the image for many reasons. Number one, anytime then that image travels, the attribution is there. If the student copies the URL and sticks it in their notes, and then in their paper, they have the image, and at the end, they put the citation to the image. It says, man and dog, and give the URL. That's great. But next time they want to use the image, they have to go find the URL in their notes. So it's really great if the two things can be married and carried to and followed and travel together. So here's an image that I took. That's inside of my house. That's a 360 image. All right. And you can see that the citation is at the bottom. right? Schrock Kathy, I took it, geodesic dome home, that's the title of it. Flickr, 19th of February, 2016, and that's the URL of the image. All right, easy. In ThingLink, it's really easy to add a tag to an image. I mean, that's the power of it, that the tag can lead you to many different places, can lead you to another site, can open a video, can lead you to another whole 360 to look at. There's many different things that can use to, but I like to use it just for text. So all I do is add a tag, type in the text, and then when anybody clicks on that little dot, as you can see on the bottom, up pops the citation. All right, so it's traveling with the image. No matter what, if I allow people to use the image, to put it in their geodesic dome collection of 360 images, they can do that, but there's always the place where someone knows where to go to find the image. Sometimes they're highlightable, sometimes you have to type them in by hand, just depends. If you're putting it right on an image itself, using some kind of image editing software, or any like a sketch kind of thing where you can just type right on the image, that's not necessarily going to be able to be highlighted. Oftentimes I tell, when teachers ask, well, how do we put the URL on the image? I suggest they use like PowerPoint or Google Slides or Keynote, have the student put the image on a slide, then put a text box on it. Doesn't have to be big, it has to be readable. Shove it at the bottom, put it in a nice color that you can see, and then save out the images, save out the slides as JPEGs, and then it's always on the image. And that would look something like this. You have to be really careful though when you're editing 360 images. 360 images carry this special information with them that allow things like ThingLink's 360 editor, their VR editor, and a Google, any other of the pieces of software that allow students to view 360 images, to tell it it's a 360 image. Sometimes you'll do something like this and it'll wind up being completely flat. That's why you see weird images like this. It's completely flat, and sometimes you wreck it. So always, if you're going to do it, make a copy first and then play with it. You can see in this image on the bottom, that black kind of scribbly mark on the bottom, that's the camera. In a 360, when you look down at it, it's this little tiny square thing. But sometimes I try to like edit it out. It's really hard on a floor like this to edit it out. And I'm always afraid I'm going to make the picture not a 360. So you have to be careful about that also. So I've showed you places to find 360s, how to locate images that are allowed to be used, and how to give attribution to the creator of the image by providing a citation. So do we have any questions?
Thank you, Kathy. Yes, we actually do have some questions. A couple of really good questions. You gave us so much great information. I really like the idea of putting the information right on the image. And what I've noticed a lot of our users do is they make a big tag at the bottom. They put it on the very bottom of every image so that it always stays there. Okay, so here's a question.
There's no bottom in a 360, but there is.
Right, but when you scroll down to the bottom of it, and when you, like we always say, look up, and then we look for like important things, and look down for important things.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly.
Yes. Okay, and there was one on that DPTV, a very big one at the bottom. Okay, so here's a question. What software or app can you use to edit the 360 image? And this comes from Wendy.
I don't edit them very often. I have Photoshop Elements, and again, that's what I use for doing any editing in any kind of image. But I have to be really careful not to change it to anything. So all I do is when I'm editing, I'm not really, I do what I do and I get out right away. I don't use any of the expert things or add lines, or I can add text, but that's about the only thing that I do. Now, if I added text to a 360, right on a 360, I doubt if it would be very readable when you're looking at it as a 360. All right, yeah. It's going to be hard. If the shorter the citation, the better. So if you were going to put text right on a 360, I would use one of the URL shorteners like bit.ly and get a shorter URL. So that at least if someone's looking at it, it's not this really long thing that's circling all at the bottom of the 360 if they're looking at it as a 360. Flat, it'll be fine, but not when it's a 360.
Yeah, the flat images are very easy to do that with. And I know that a lot of people do use Photoshop. If you have great Photoshop editing skills, some people really spend some time adding layers and things to the 360 images, which is really interesting. But just the less editing you can do, I think the better, unless you really know what you're doing with Photoshop.
Well, yeah, and this is Photoshop Elements, so this is the the easier one. It doesn't have you can't make as many mistakes and turn it into a flat picture. I've turned a lot of them, I'll tell you, into flat pictures. So, and you have to also remember, I find this with my grad students, as much as I tell them what to do. A lot of them use Google Street View. We have them using Google Street View to create their 360s. They somehow make panoramas all the time by mistake. Right. And a piece of software on the devices that says 360 images, there are some that are ones called Image 360. It goes 360 around, but it doesn't have a top and a bottom. So that's really not a 360. A 360 would be something that you create with Google Street View or with one of the 360 cameras.
Yes, and actually, so when I go out into boot camps, I always teach people how to use their phones, just their Android or their iPhones, to take the 360 image with Street View. And I do have to remind everybody, you have to look up and up. Sometimes there are 4 layers to connect. So otherwise, you do end up with just a panorama. There are also a few apps that just make panoramas. They will upload to ThingLink, but then when you try to look up or down, you just get black space.
Right, and some of the newer Androids, people that have newer Androids or the newest Android operating systems, they actually have in their camera, when they look at their options in a camera, they have, photo, video, they have spherical image, which is really just Google Street View, but it's built into the operating system on some Androids. And there's one thing that's called Cardboard Camera, which is an app for both iOS and Android, and that doesn't do the top and bottom. It just does the all the way around. So stay away from that. I was so excited. I thought it was something going to be cool like that, but it's not. So.
Me too. I was so excited when I tried because it almost mentions something beyond panorama, but it is just a regular camera. So yes.
Right.
All right. I have a few more questions for you, Kathy. So do you need, let's see, this is from Wendy. Do you need a Flickr account to download images?
That's a good question. I'm thinking you probably do, because I know you need them to share with me, right? You don't upload it to my group. You upload it to your own Flickr account and then tell me that you want to add it to my group. In Flickr, the groups work. The images originally, they stay in your Flickr account. So I'm assuming that you probably need a Flickr account, which is a Yahoo login, to download from Flickr. There are other online, I mean, you could put a 360 image in, anywhere. You can put it in, Dropbox and download it, and it still stays as 360. It just people can't view it.
Right.
The wonder of Flickr is, which is great, and now Facebook too, is you can, while it's in Flickr, you can click on it, and actually there's a 360 viewer in Flickr, so you can zoom around the image and look to see that everything in it is appropriate that you want to use for students or for students to use. Yeah. And another trick with 360s is, which I discovered by just stupid luck, is in Facebook, your header can be a 360. So if you go to my account on Facebook, you can actually see that same lighthouse picture, but you move around your phone and it moves around my 360, which I think is pretty cool.
That's a very good tip. I'll have to try that.
It's fun.
Yes. Okay, so Kathy, I have a question for you. So when we did our first webinar with our 360 images, we had the pioneers coming out. You set up this 360 images for schools, and we expected that it would really grow, because we just wanted to create this wonderful repository. So has it grown a lot?
I don't think it's grown a lot with numbers of people. I forget actually how many people. Well, we can see actually. Let's go back here.
Yes.
Where was I don't know when I took this. I took this August 26th. You can see on the right hand side. I don't know what year because it's covered on my screen. But what does it say? August 26th. What year?
It says May 15th, 2016.
Down there, below it, in the where it says
August 6th, 2016. Yes.
Okay, so that was a while ago. But I have a lot more photos, but well, I make my grad students do it, so I get at least 20 or 40 of them every semester. But the photos have grown exponentially. The people that take images, they just take lots of images. And there's many pictures of insides of schools, but that's okay. I just want, I don't care what's up there as far if it's their backyard. I mean, I use my house all the time because I have a round house, so it really shows off nicely in 360. Mm-hmm. But basically my idea was, but it is from all over the world. So it's more from not US than US of pictures in there. So, and I don't know if people are actually tagging them, also. So that's the other thing. And Flickr in some schools is blocked, so that doesn't help things either.
Yes, but I always do encourage people to put their images up there because it's a really great idea to share.
Yeah, and I do have to give permission for them to do it. I just just make sure that that's really legitimately somebody. So
great. Okay, well, it looks like we are out of audience questions right now. That's a whole lot of information you gave us, and I really appreciate all of your time and effort for putting this together. This is going to help me tremendously. I learned at least a handful of things from you, Kathy, that I'll pass on to everybody else. So thank you so much for sharing tonight.
It's great. I only ask for one, that you learn one new thing. So if you learned more than one, I've done my duty.
Great. Well, then I guess I'm just going to sign off the webinar. So everybody who's in the audience should get a copy of this recorded version. I know Kathy also shared the URL for the presentation, and I'll go ahead and put my screen up really fast so that people can see one more time the URL to get that presentation, because there was so much information there. Also on this final page, you'll see Kathy's information again about how to reach her on Twitter or how to go to her website. There's the bit.ly. Also, I wanted to encourage people in the audience to check out the ThingLink blog, because we have a lot of great ideas going on the ThingLink blog from real teachers who are using 360 in great ways, and it's a good way to connect with people. And then if you're interested in learning more about creating these 360 images, thinglink.com is where you'd go to sign up for an account. So once again, thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful evening and happy tagging.